Hey guys, it's Wahima, but just call me Wah. Melanated! Welcome to my recap of 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days. This is season 4, episode 2, Great Expectations. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, you guys, and always remember, don't be a fool and wrap your tool. Ed. Alright, you guys, let's jump right into this episode. You guys, I really think that Ash and Avery are gonna get on my nerves. Like, I do not care about them at all, so let's start with them. Alright, so we start off with Avery. She is walking in the park about to do some yoga and she decides to call Ash. She's talking to Ash and Ash brings in his 10-year-old son Taj and they start to talk about the logistics of her going to Australia in a couple of weeks, whether or not she's going to be able to talk to Taj's mother about the fact that Ash might move to the US and what that means for Taj. Ash is like, everything is going to be fine with her. I want to make it so that you guys can meet. And Avery wants more details as to what happened in their relationship and why they divorced. But Ash is really not into giving her details. He just says a bunch of flowery things. And we start to really see what it is that Avery is concerned about when dealing with Ash. She brings up a point that when they broke up, one of the times that they broke up, it was because he didn't engage his audience and let his audience know that he had a girlfriend. He didn't solidify that. And Ash says, look, I did what I did because I thought it was the best thing at the time. I don't necessarily know if it was right or wrong, but now I understand your feelings, and so we just need to grow and move on from there. Ash said the perfect thing, which is kind of what Avery is worried about. Ash also says that he can't wait to meet Avery because he wants to know if their souls are going to connect on many levels. And if their souls connect on many levels, then everything else will be fine. What? What do you mean your souls connect on many levels? So she ends up hanging up with Ash, knowing that she's going to meet him, knowing that a lot of things are up in the air, but they're going to have this conversation when she gets to Australia. The next scene with Avery is that she goes over to her parents' house to let them know what's going on in her life and that she's going to Australia for 2.5 weeks. She tells her mom and her mom is pissed because her mom says that Avery has made so many bad choices with men in the past that she just doesn't trust this scenario. Her father feels like, why would you have to go, halfway around the world to meet somebody after only knowing them for 9 months? Personally, I don't think there's anything specifically wrong with her going to meet Ash. You have to at some point if you've developed a relationship with somebody. I think the problem is that they're worried about her leaving her kids behind because of maybe whatever she did when she was dealing with Silver's dad. Maybe it was reckless behavior and they're just worried about Avery being obsessed with being in a relationship and not thinking about being a mother first. Grandma is just kind of like, oh, he's really handsome. There are 3 different opinions happening on the couch around her, and she's being as honest and open and candid with them as possible, telling them about her fears about him being a relationship coach and how he just always says the right thing. I personally think that even though her going to Australia might be something that's crazy, it's something that needs to happen, and she's a grown woman. As long as she has somebody to take care of her children, and as long as her kids are safe, men travel all the time and nobody judges them, so I'm not going to judge a woman for traveling. Alright, so the next couple that we're going to talk about is Yolanda and Williams. So where we start off is Yolanda is doing laundry and she calls down one of her daughters, Kiana, to help her do the laundry. Yolanda says that Williams is one word, lovely. He calls and texts her every day and she has fallen in love with this man that she's been talking to for 7 months. The weirdest thing about Yolanda is that she keeps talking about the 7 months like she's saying 7 years. 7 months is such a short period of time and she's just ready to jump all in because she's worried about being alone when her kids get up and leave, which is kind of sad. And I guess I'm lucky because I'm a super single and that I'm okay with being by myself. I'm lonely, but not this desperate. I mean, not this crazy. I hope I will never be this person. Yolanda is just enamored with somebody who isn't real and it's so sad to see. And her daughter, Cara, is just completely not into it. Yolanda tells us that Williams was very excited to find out that she lived in Las Vegas because he's always heard of Las Vegas and he wanted to go. So he got his monies together, but he was a couple of $100s short, so he asks Yolanda to help him with the ticket. Now, Yolanda was taken aback by this and she was kind of upset, but for whatever reason, she forgave him, decided that he wasn't a scammer, and said, you know what, I can't give you money, but I will dip into my family finances to go to you. So they sit down, her and Cara, to look at prices and airfare and travel, all that stuff, hotels and whatnot. And then she calls Williams to figure out what airport that she needs to fly into. He just says London. He sounds sleepy. She says that he will text her the information. So they hang up. He then texts her. He's basically saying, fly into London. I'll come and pick you up. It's 2 hours away from Manchester. And that's how we'll do it. And Cara is like, why wouldn't we just fly into Manchester? It doesn't make any sense to do that trip. So that's what Yolanda types back. And then finally, he says, you know what? Fly into Manchester. It's fine. The airport is ASP Manchester Limited. That is not an airport. And they start to look on the list and they're like, there's no airport that's that. So Yolanda gets back on the phone and calls him and is trying to like confirm whether this ASP, Manchester Limited LTD is an actual thing. And he does not respond to her. So now she's upset / embarrassed because this is happening in front of Cara, who's already a naysayer. But Yolanda feels like she's got hope for Williams that he's going to come through. Girl, next episode, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, next episode they show that he has deleted his whole Instagram, hasn't returned her calls, and now she's confused. And I'm just like, baby, is this a scam? Like, I don't understand. Is Yolanda really this dumb? Has she never watched 90 Day Fiancé? Has she never watched Catfish? I'm so confused. But again, I do feel so sad for her because she's just being taken advantage of and she's such a fool. So the next couple that we're gonna talk about, Darcy and Tom. Yay! Our girl Darcy is back. So we get Darcy trying on some wedding dresses and they kind of try to lead us to believe that she's trying on wedding dresses for herself. They give a little intro to Darcy and talk about all of her past relationships. We talk about Jesse, we talk about last season with Tom and where she's at right now. She says that as far as she knows, her and Tom are still together. They just haven't really expressed anything to each other. They haven't been talking. They haven't actually broken up. So as far as she's concerned, she's in a relationship. So the reason why Darcy is trying on dresses and then Stacey comes out from wherever she is and Stacey's face has gone through a transformation that I do not agree with. There is too much happening on Stacey's face. Also, she didn't blend out her contour. I am upset with Stacey. They're both trying on wedding dresses because they decided that they're gonna go and design some wedding dresses for their brand, House of 11, which she actually told us that they had a brother who died, who was born on the 11th of one month and died on the 11th of another month, and that so the name of their company is really an homage to him, and I thought that was really sweet. What I didn't think was sweet was their hair. I'm sick of this like rat's nest thing they've got going on. Like, I don't understand. Either let it be curly or let it be straight. Now, I know letting it be straight is gonna damage their hair even more because of the platinum and all they've got going on, but like, I am tired of it. If it's not professionally done, it looks crazy on them, but I do love them. They go out and share milkshakes and talk about what's gonna happen with Tom. And Darcy says, as always, that she's a believer in love and she's gonna fight for love and she's just waiting for love. And Tom is her 007, her gentleman. She did talk a little bit about the fact that Stacey is engaged, even though I thought Stacey and Florian had broken up, but maybe this was filmed before they had broken up. But she's like, Stacey's engaged and I'm not. And Stacey's like, don't worry, Darce, it's gonna come for you, all in good time. Because they're twins, they have to do everything at the exact same time, which is like crazy because Darcy and Stacey are 45 years old and they just really need to get over that. So Darcy receives a text from Tom stating that he would like to have a conversation with her. She's excited because she hasn't talked to him in a while. So they set up a time to have a conversation. So she's sitting in her kitchen and Tom calls her. Now, as we recall, the last video chat that we had from Tom and Darcy after Darcy left London was him telling her that he really can't be in a relationship and he wants to be friends. At the end of last season, he says he wants to be friends. They meet up at the tell-all. After the tell-all, they rekindle their relationship and she really hasn't talked to him from then. So now she's like worried. So he calls her, she answers, he tells her, yeah, I've been really busy, work has been crazy, but it's been really a lot of fun. And she's like, that's good. And she's trying to be supportive and not be crazy. And he then says to her, well, I'm coming to New York. And she gets a flashback of the last time a boyfriend said, I'm coming to New York, as opposed to just telling her over the phone or talking to her in that moment. And so she's like, look, I don't know what's going on, but if you're just gonna come here and break up with me, then I don't want to come and meet you. You can just hang out in New Jersey, New York by yourself. And he's like, no, I want to have a conversation with you. I want to see you in person across the dinner table to know how the land lays. Like, I want to know if my feelings for you are, I guess, real. I think what's happening is that when Darcy is not around him, Tom starts to separate from her because he doesn't feel the love or whatever. He can't really do long distance, right? He's unable to keep the spark. So he wants to meet with her in New York City to see if the spark is still there, to see if he can, rekindle it, if this thing is actually real. But Darcy's like, She really doesn't want to go there and audition, you know? Like, she just wants to know what's going on and what's happening. And he's like, oh, well, Darcy, I have to catch a flight. I can't have this conversation now. We'll have it in New York. And she's like, no, I want to have this conversation. Okay, fine. Whatever. Just whatever. I'm not going to be your pawn, is what she says. I think maybe she felt like Jesse used her to be on the show, and Jesse, you know, then treated her poorly and made her look stupid on TV. And I think she's worried about Tom doing the same thing. And maybe that's what she means by I'm not going to be your pawn. But girl, I don't know. I'm staunchly in Darcy's corner either way it goes. So the next couple that we're going to talk about is Lisa and Usman. All right, so we find out that Usman is Muslim and Lisa is Christian. So where we start off with them is that she's laying on her bed and she's having a conversation with him via Skype. She said in her confessionals that she's going to Nigeria to marry Usman and bring him back to the US on a spousal visa. This is the first spousal visa I believe that we've seen on 90 Day Fiancé, and I'm kind of interested in this whole process. Lisa's like, look, I'm really interested in solidifying the fact that I'm married to this man so all these little females can get off his balls. And I'm just like, girl, you understand that that's not going to stop them? Now, I understand she's been cheated on in the past, and so she has some like PTSD from that, but she's bringing a lot of drama into this relationship unnecessarily. And Usman says that he can't wait to see her, to hug her, but then to also slap her because of all of the drama. That takes her back a bit, and it takes me back a bit as well, but I think it's just kind of like words and culture. I don't think he really means that he's going to hit her. Like, you know, that's a little bit outside of the American norm of something you would say to somebody, but I do get it in the like jovial sense. It just isn't quite funny. I don't think that he's a bad guy because he said that. I don't think he's an abuser. Like, I'm not going to label him any of those things. You know, I'm just like, he probably just said it because he thought it would be funny. When she lands, she's like, I want to go to the studio. You need to be prepared to be with me 24/7 because I want everybody in your life to know that I am your woman. And Usman's like, yeah, of course, you can go to the studio, you can be my friend. She's like, I need everybody to know. She wants to put her funk, her pheromones on Usman so people know what's what and who's who. So then we start to talk about Usman and his mother. Now, his mother is very traditional and would love for Usman to marry a Muslim Nigerian woman, but Usman has chosen Lisa. So Usman has a trick. Usman has a plan. He says, you know what, buy my mom a goat, and that'll start to soften her heart. Now, Lisa doesn't understand the road that's ahead of her. She's nervous, but she's, I guess, willing to do it for love. And she has to convince the mother to give the blessing for them to be married. Usman also tells her that his mother is slightly worried that she's just gonna bring him to the US to make him a slave. And Lisa's kind of taken aback by this. And I'm like, So then Lisa goes to meet with her friends, Kathy and Rocky, whom I absolutely loved. I love them both. And they're concerned with Lisa because Lisa's never been out of the country and she's head over heels in love with Usman. And so they then looked up the place that she's going and was like, oh, there's this, there's that. They start to say some things that are like, you know, a little naive American talk about beheadings and murders and all that stuff. And she's like, look, we live near New York City where there's stabbings and murders all the time. Like, it's not like I'm going to some place that's lawless. Like, I will be with a native. I'm going to be protected. No one's going to steal me and, you know, and hold me for ransom. Like, you know, whatever. So they're putting up all the worst case scenarios that a lot of Americans do when someone goes to another country. And she's quick with the rebuttal, but I did like them. I liked the conversation that I had. I love that the friend took out the phone and started looking stuff up. I just liked it. It was a good little conversation. So the next conversation that she has, she's packing, right? She's literally packing everything, girl. She's got some ugly ass slippers that she's put in there, some like slides that are so ugly and beat up. And I'm like, why are you taking those? First, you need to be an all open toe. You don't need to go with some leather slides. And then her friend Nikki comes over, her African daughter. Okay, we don't talk about the fact that Nikki has a straight up black African daughter. And then Nikki's mother, who apparently has been to Africa several times. I don't know which country in Africa, but has been there several times because her father had a missionary group or program or something in Africa, which immediately made me annoyed because I was like, colonization at its finest and like bringing over your religion. She has been to Africa, whatever part of Africa, many a times, and I guess she's a nurse. So she brings over condoms. Lisa's like, look, no, he's clean. He's been tested. And she's like, no, you need to wear condoms. Stop being dumb. It's weird that Trenda, who is the nurse / missionary, is the same age as Lisa, but Lisa is best friends with her daughter, Nikki. I want to know what's going on there. She's like, I've known Trinda for over 20 years. And I'm just like, how are you best friends with her daughter? So weird. So they finish helping her pack and then take her to the airport, and she's off to Nigeria. The first time out of the country. She is ready, girl. And I'm just like, oh, all that travel. Like what, 20 hours? Whew, Godspeed, Lisa. All right, so the next couple that we're going to talk about is Varia and Geoffrey. A lot of you guys told me to look up what's going on with Geoffrey. Apparently he has some bad stuff in his past. I went on Starcasm. I didn't find it. I didn't go deep enough. I probably needed to go like to page 4 or 5. If you guys want to say what it is down below, that's no problem. I know somebody was like, you don't like spoilers. So I'm like, that's not a spoiler to talk about somebody's past. The spoiler is telling me what's happening in the future. So Geoffrey is excited to go to Russia to meet Varia. He says that he deserves happiness, and after what's happened to him the past year and a half, that he is going to find happiness in Varia, which is red flag number 1. You don't find happiness with people, you find happiness within yourself. Varia is not going to solve any external problems for you, specifically and especially because you haven't even told her what the problem is. I was really shocked that she didn't know why he broke up with his ex-girlfriend. But then I was also shocked to find out that they've only been talking for 5 months. So that's what's going on. So he's with his sons, and his sons are very concerned, but they drive him to the airport and drop him off. And he keeps saying that she's the love of his life and he deserves to be happy. And his sons are just like, he is just making a fool-ass mistake. But you know what? We're here to support him, and hopefully he comes to his senses eventually. So he starts his long journey to Russia. Cut to Varia. Now Varia is hanging out with her homegirls, and they're all very confused about this 5-month relationship and how she's going to Moscow by herself, because Varia actually lives in a suburb of Moscow, or a city outside of Moscow. And she just says that it's a typical Russian city. She is a DJ for a radio station, or a radio host. She plays music. She's from Siberia. And so she moved from Siberia at 17 and came to that town and has been living there, and is, you know, life is great for her. And I'm happy for her. So she's talking to her homegirls, and one of the homegirls is like, are you using him as a bridge to get to the other shore? And she's like, no, him being an American is a bonus. Like, that's the bonus part. I actually do like him, and I hope that in person we can have that connection that we have online. Her friends are like, this doesn't sound safe. You shouldn't be going and staying with him. And she's like, you know what? You're right. I won't stay with him, even though I think he might be a little disappointed, but I'll find some friends in Moscow to stay with, or I'll get my own room. And they're just like, okay, but they think that she is nuts for doing this. So next scene is that she goes over to Moscow to meet Geoffrey. Geoffrey's really nervous when he gets off the plane. He tries to like wash up in the bathroom, make sure he looks good. And when they see each other, Geoffrey is awkward AF. And Varia doesn't know what to do. She's just like, so, hey, you know, and he's just like, yeah, we're waiting for a cab. Like, he has no personality. He doesn't know what to do. And I'm just like, wah, wah, Geoffrey, boo. You showed all this personality and your pictures to her over the phone via like Skype, and now you get to her and you don't even know what to do or say. So she tries to fill up the space by saying, hey, you know, maybe when we get back to the hotel, we can, you know, go and make out. And he like starts to laugh at her because she's obviously used the wrong word. She meant to say hang out, but she says make out instead. And you know, if you're learning English, those two terms don't make any sense in actual, they're idioms, right? Hang out is not an actual thing. Like hang and then out. Like that is not an actual thing. The same thing with make out. So she got them mixed up, and he was just like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we can make out if you want to. And I was just like, shut up. You know what she's talking about. Just be like, oh no, the term is hang out. Then they get into the cab, and both of them are hoping that the energy gets less awkward, but I really feel it all falls on Geoffrey. All right, so that is the end of Geoffrey. Let me get some water. Are we almost done? I think we could talk about Ed and Rosemary. Oh, I think we're done. Yes. Yes, I'm so happy. So the last couple that we're gonna talk about is Ed and Rosemary. All right, so we find out that he is an interior designer. Who knew? And he has a coworker named Cara who's half Filipino, and they're having a conversation about him going to the Philippines. Now, Ed is an idealist. He's super excited about this entire process. He hasn't really thought of anything negative or how it could go bad. And here is Cara to really explain to him all that's going on. Ed tells Cara that Rosemary lives 3 hours outside of Manila. And Cara's like, 3 hours? You know, that could definitely be like a little village with no plumbing. Have you asked her about that? And Ed's like, no plumbing? And Cara's like, yeah, I mean, you just use a bucket and water and wash yourself. And he's like, oh. And she's like, yeah, it's humid there. There are mosquitoes. You got to get your shots. There's a lot going on, especially if you're going outside of Manila. Have you even thought about that? Have you thought about the fact that you have sensitive skin? Like, who's going to cook for you? Where are you going to stay? And he's like, well, I'm staying with Rose. And she's like, where does Rose stay? Rose stays in the back of a shop that she runs with her sister, like in a bed at the back of the shop. There's like a store in front. And I don't know what it is that Ed is thinking that it is. And in my imagination, it is not going to be enough room for him. So Cara is like, you are going to be hot and sweaty and itchy and all kinds of stuff. You are going to really need to ask her a lot more questions. Also, she says there's flying roaches. I cannot. New York has flying roaches. I cannot. The flying roaches like really took me out. So then Cara starts to ask Ed, like, how much money have you spent on her for this? Has she asked you for money? And so Ed says, no, she hasn't asked me for money, but her sister did the other day. Her sister said that something is going bad with the store and to not tell Rosemarie that she is asking him for money, but if he could give her money. And he says, no, we'll talk about it when we get there. And she's like, it'll be too late by then. And he's like, I'm sorry, I can't give you money, you know. You're just gonna have to wait until I get there. And Cara's like, don't give her money. And Ed's like, no, I'm not gonna give her money, but it really did take me aback. And it's weird that she told me not to ask Rosemarie, and it really hurts my feelings to know that perhaps Rosemarie is in on it. And I'm like, of course Rosemarie is in on it. Or if she isn't, like, why does Maria have your number? Did she go through Rosemarie's phone and find your number to call you? Like, Ed is just like so head over heels in love with Rosemarie and finds that this is like the person of his dreams, that he is not even thinking of all the things that could possibly go wrong and all the craziness that can happen with him going to a small village outside of Manila. Cara asks him about the gifts and stuff. And so Ed is like, I have sent her about $5,000 worth of gifts and shipping. And Cara looks at him and says, Ed, does that sound normal to you? And Ed is like, well, not when you say it. It sounds kind of crazy. I spent my bonus on her. I understand perfectly why Tiffany is not talking to him, why his daughter has just decided to not talk to him, because he is being an absolute fool. Just an idiot. I mean, whew, girl, I was so glad that Cara like stepped up and said all those things. So the next scene we have is Ed packing. He has decided that he's gonna pack her lingerie. The audacity, the gall. Absolutely not. Ed is, I mean, this whole age gap has really got me. Like, he's kind of gross. And I wanna like him because he seems like such a likable guy, but that 30-year difference is bullshit. It honestly is. He's talking about he's gonna bring condoms, and that's that quote I said at the beginning, you know, don't be a fool, wrap up your tool. And then his homeboy comes over and is like, dang, where are you going? What are you doing? And he's like, yeah, I'm packing all this stuff for Rosemarie. And he shows his friend the lingerie. No. And the friend is like, that doesn't look like your size. And they have a good chuckle about it. And I'm just like, and the friend is like, listen, I've known Ed for 15 years. And all of those 15 years he's been single. And then all of a sudden now he's met the love of his life in the Philippines. Like, this is absolutely crazy, and Ed is not thinking clearly when he's making these decisions to be Rosemarie, and I 100% agree. It's just like he's this weird dirty old man, and then they start talking about whether or not he wants to have kids, and he's like, I actually want to get snipped, and I'm scared to tell Rosemarie because she told me that she does want to have like one more daughter. And then the guy's like, okay, does she have any kids? And he's like, yeah, she's a 4-year-old boy. And so Rich is like, listen, so you're going to be 64 when he's 14. You're going to be taking care of a 14-year-old kid at 64. And how's that going to look? And Ed's just like, well, I guess I'll like clean up my drool. And I'm just like, Ed, no. I know the age gap happens in certain places, like, you know, certain villages like around the world. There are 64-year-old men who are still marrying, you know, young 20-something-year-old women. But that's because society doesn't look down on it, and that's because sometimes people just need stability, and marrying a man that has a farm with several goats is what's going to help you out. And I guess that's what Rosemarie's doing, but Ed is American. He knows he's not going to have anything in common with Rosemarie. Rosemarie is literally 6 years younger than his child. What? How are you going to be with a 24-year-old woman? 30 years? That's like raising another kid again. I mean, come on. And then she's gonna come to the US and be completely alone, completely isolated, and you're gonna be that everything for her? You've lied to her about your height, and now you're gonna have to tell her that you don't want more kids. Like, this is too much. Ed is scamming her and she's scamming him, and I don't feel sorry for him at all. This is dumb. Some of the things that he's taking to the Philippines is like dumb. Popcorn? He's like, I don't know if they eat popcorn, but I'm gonna take popcorn. The fuck? Why? I mean, he might not be able to eat all the food that they cook, so he better take some popcorn, actually. Ed's just gonna be on a diet of popcorn and wine while he's there. Ed is planning on taking a ring, and Rich is like, hell no. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. No. Put that ring back in its box and leave it here. Do not take it to the Philippines. His friends are really looking out for him. Ed gets to the airport, and he decides that he's gonna call his daughter Tiffany because he's getting on a plane. And she doesn't respond, so he texts her and leaves her a video, and he's like, hey, I'm on my way, and I just wanted to say, you know, in case something happens to me, that I love you and you're the best thing that ever happened in my life, and I'm sorry that I hurt you, you know, whatever. And so he sends it off, and she calls him, and she's like, hey, she's upset, but she's like, you know what, if this is the last time I get to talk to my dad, I don't want to like just let him go off. So she's, you know, like, I'll talk to you when you get home, like all that stuff. And I thought it was nice of her to have this conversation with him, because obviously he is going and he's doing it anyway, and she just doesn't want to like not talk to him before he gets on a plane. Like, that makes sense to me. But otherwise, girl. All right, you guys, so that's the end of this episode. Let's have a kiki and a conversation down in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Go on ahead and check out these videos here. Don't forget to support your girl on YouTube. Let the algorithm know that you care about me. Don't also forget to give this video a thumbs up, because that helps as well. All right, you guys, remember to be you, be true, and find your place. Bye. Oh, I have a review of Love is Blind that's going to come up next, and I also have a bunch of Love After Lockup reviews, so please watch those reviews too. If you're not into the show, who cares? Just come and watch me talk about them.